Guys doing? We got Anhur here up against Yee. It's time, baby. Florina, sub, long time sub, the best. Nice supporter. We're not in queue. Asked for a in-depth analysis on her game, so I'm gonna give it to you. So on her, basically, you know, you want to start out the same way that I start with. This is how I start, at least, all my ADCs, with the Attacker's Blessing and Spike Gauntlet. I think this is the best path for any ADC to take at this point in the game. Now that they've added 5 power to Spike Gauntlet, it helps the early game be just as, or not just as dominant as with the Tier 1 Transcendence start or with the Mace start. But it puts you up there in the early game and lets you transition very smoothly into their most powerful item, which is Devo Gloves. So with Anhur, of course, you always want to be able to play up in the early game because that's when you're strongest. You know, you should almost never lose an early engagement. They can pull out a trump card like that, like Racer. I have my own. Nice, we predicted that, and there it is. Shit on. Had we not predicted that bounce, though, it would have been really close. He might have been able to kill us there. So, you know, Anhur really comes down to a lot of, like, fundamental mechanics. He's a very solid god in every regard, you know, his ability to self-peel, his ability to engage, and by self-peel, I mean his disengage potential, being able to jump away, use his CC immune ultimate, use his pillar to both obstruct and cause his opponents to be slowed. And yeah, basically he's got all his bases covered in all the right areas to be one of the best dual gods. In terms of faults, I mean, he really doesn't have any on paper. The only thing that makes him not the best is that there are other gods that, you know, do broken shit that even better than he does. Sometimes I'll go full Devo first before it boots. It really depends on the situation. If I'm fighting like an assassin that's running me down, like say a Fenrir here, I'll finish up the boots first. I kind of fucked myself over here a little bit because I went for the blue buff and I missed out on the wave as a result. Probably shouldn't have done that. Yeah, because I missed out on a good portion of the wave. Whereas I probably would have gotten the blue buff anyway. Ooh, I was about to start out the ult. Ouch. Oh, okay. That was a very interesting angle that he chose. Instead of going straight for me, he looked for the bounce. I'm not sure why he did, because the straightforward answer would have been to just hit me, you know? But and it would have been, you know, more confirmable. But it actually ended up working because it followed my juke. Not sure exactly what went into that decision, but it worked out for him. Yee versus Anhur is an interesting one because they can go kind of tit for tat, especially in the early game. I think Anhur has a much easier time the later the game goes. Huh? This guy's name is Clean Dirt, and he's taunting me.
Beware of shifting sands.
Mana's been a little bit of a concern here. Gotta make sure we're prioritizing the stacks. He's looking to line up his shit on me there. I am looking to hit him with the ult, but I want to make sure he jumps first. Yeah, look for his ult combo here, so we gotta, yeah, we're dead. My bad. So here you can see that I actually took a beating because I went into the Devo path before the boots. I mean, really, I think ultimately I should have gone into the boots, recognizing that Yee is a stun and slow-based character. Movement's really important versus him. And such a small decision like that can end up being so crucial. So me, you know, kind of trying to put priority on the analysis. Instead, I ended up kind of screwing myself over a little bit and giving him a tremendous opportunity. But us being Anhur in this position, I think we'll be okay. We should be able to mount a pretty good comeback here. There we go. Got that.
Beware the shifting sands.
Should be able to take this down too.
My fury.
It's good as long as we're on top of those. Yeah, you don't really want to have no boots against Hou Yi's ultimate. You know, that's pretty. You're asking for.
I will be right back.
You're asking me for kills each time because he will be able to capitalize on the fact that you don't have the movement speed necessary to either react before it comes out or get out once it starts hitting, or to dodge the stun itself. But like I said, the thing about Anhur is that he doesn't really have any, like, you know, clear and present faults. He's not an while he has an insane early game god, he's not an early game god. He has an insane late as well. So, wow, I'm surprised that hit. It kind of just like wrapped around the wall. Yeah, so he's got options at all times.
There are no
Damn,
here
son, you get body.
Killing is actually encouraged.
Taunt me, you ugly ass, or emote me. Alright, nothing up there. Get some tower poke. Yeah, so the good thing when you're behind on Anhur is that, you know, you should always recognize, hey, there's pretty much always a chance to come back if I play it well. Unless I'm against Freya, Kronos, who else? AMC, because AMC really shits on him. A Hebo that's like a fed Hebo. I'd say that, you know, he loses to Hebo in general probably. Yeah, for sure. But not that heavily until Hebo gets a really big lead. We'll go straight into the defense here. See, now we're very far ahead of him in stacks. That's why we're able to win that engagement so handily. Because of our Devil Rush, even though it gave him 2 early kills that we should have allowed for. But I think the biggest thing about Anhur that you can't really teach is mechanics. You know, his mechanics are the most important part of his kit. He's not a hard god to the user to win with, but he is a hard god to master, you know, to play at the highest level. Consistency on Anhur is difficult, very difficult in fact, because he relies incredibly heavily on hitting his 2 consistently. And if you can't land that 2 or set up the parameters that allow you to hit the 2 more easily, like his, you know, getting the right pillar or getting the right jump onto somebody, then you're not going to be able to perform as well on Anhur as, you know, as you perceive him to be capable of. So it's all about fundamentals, and it's just about experience and practice. It takes a while, you know, like he's a god that I committed to early on in the game, so I have, you know, pretty reasonable strength with him. But, you know, even I have games where I am just piss poor with him, and if your impales are off, your whole game is completely off. Anhur is definitely one of the few gods I still like genuinely enjoy in this game, though. He's super fluid. He's very fun. Damn. Just messed that up. I tried to make it a situation where if he stayed left, he'd get knocked into my pillar, but if he went right, I'd hit him, I'd cover it and hit him into his Phoenix. But I just skimmed. I didn't skim. Nice. He decided to stand his ground there. He was fed up with me pushing him around, but it was the wrong time to do so. We were able to just come in and dominate there. So So yeah, like I was saying, in this particular matchup, I think Hou, or rather Anhur, wins in the early game, and the mid and the late. It's definitely just a straight up winning matchup. But I think it gets even better for Anhur in the mid to late stages. Early game is probably 60-40, and then mid to late is probably either 65 or 70. I'd say 65 probably for Anhur. Maybe 70, only because Shield of Thorns is such a great counter to Hou's ult.
Fury for my spear.
Gods that can fight him in his ult and pop the Shield of Thorns at the same time just deal exponential amounts of damage to him, and there's no way he can really, just counter that. He has to bait out the Shield of Thorns beforehand, which, isn't going to happen against experienced players for the most part. Most situations, it's going to be up and ready for that. Yeah, one thing also, like, you don't need to have the perfect pillar combos. Like, I very rarely, as you can see, I'm not great at hitting the pillar combo. I'd say I'm a great Anhur overall. Like, not like the best Anhur, but a great Anhur. And I'm not great at the pillar combo itself. I mess it up a lot because a lot of times, it's up to the opponent. Huh, that was nice. It's up to the opponent whether they are able to juke that out or not, because like I've fought some fantastic, like when I fought like Zapman in the matchup, when we did Anhur Dittos, like even though he trashed me in this matchup, I was able to recognize that he was setting up for those kinds of pillar combos and stuff, and I very rarely got hit by them. Same as when I fight like Panda Cat or pretty much anybody, because the pillar combo is not a guarantee by any means. You can react when setting that up. There's a little bit of an interval. So don't think that if you do the pillar combo well enough that you can't be a good Anhur, because you absolutely can. It's not essential. It's just something that really it adds a lot to his hit. A lot of times I use it like that for intimidation, try to force him into another position.
You have slain an enemy.
They objected, and I couldn't hold their peace.
Our foes cower before our
Yeah, so I would use it to try to force him to go left there instead of right where I placed the pillar, and then that's when
beware the shifting sands.
And that should be it. A really quick game. And that's Anhur. GG. Oh, one other huge thing, as you may notice in this matchup, I used the pillar to block the Hou projectile a couple times, at least once or twice, and that's really big. Using that, knowing which projectiles, of course, that you can use that against, ones that aren't lasers, that don't go through walls. That's really big. You being able to utilize that lets you control so many matchups. Very strong tool to fully utilize with Anhur. GG.